Hello everyone, welcome to another review. It's been a while since I've done one of these, so let's change that by taking a look at this, the Nerf Rival Phantom, or I guess I should say the Nerf Rival Phantom Core Hera, which is a new, as of making this video, still unreleased blaster that's been popping up in some targets around the US. I couldn't find any in my area, that's why I had to get this shipped all the way from Arizona from my friend Warrior22, who was awesome enough to do that for me. So big thank you to Warrior for letting me get my hands on this thing. So this is basically like a redone Zeus, but not in the way where I get bored of it, kind of like every other Strife reshell. This has some things the Zeus doesn't have, and maybe things that make it even better or a better buy than the Zeus, but we'll find out once we open up this package, so let's do that right now. Inside the box, you get an instructional pamphlet, you get some rival rounds, you get these things, which I'll talk about in just a second, and you get the Hera itself plus a 12-round magazine. But what were those other things? This is one of the things that comes with the package, and it is little flags to show what team color you are on. You get both a red and blue one, but what's interesting about the Phantom Core Hera is that it is white because the Phantom Core is like a rogue team that can take out whoever it wants. So if you're not red or blue, you're part of the Phantom Core, which I guess is what I am, or part of Team Pink, hashtag Pink Revolution. But the most important part of this package is the blaster itself, so let's get that out. Now before you start playing with it, it will require 6 C batteries that go right in here. Getting the batteries out is simple. It's held in with one screw. Just take a screwdriver to this little area right here, and you pull it back and slide out the battery tray. Now, if this looks similar to the KS, that is because it is, and if you don't want to use C batteries, you can use the Nerf rechargeable one that they sell separately, which is pretty darn cool. So if you're looking for a little boost to performance, you can use the rechargeable battery, which is a great option. I love that Nerf is doing that. But you take your battery tray, you fill it up with C batteries, and then you just put it right back in and you close it up, and I'll do that right now and we'll get into what all is happening with this blaster. So the Hera is a pretty compact sized blaster. If I shoulder this, and I'm a 6'4" guy, you can kind of see how small it is, but in its small size, it is a very comfortable blaster, nice to shoulder, and it feels really good when you tuck it in and move about. So even though it's a bit small, it is very well sized, at least to me. If we move to the grip, if you don't like the Apollo grip, you are not going to like this because it is about the same size as the Apollo. My hand feels a bit small when I put it onto the grip, which is something I don't really mind, but it just feels that tiny little bit awkward to hold on to it. The spacing for your fingers, where all the grooves is very comfortable, very well laid out, but it's just a tiny bit too big. But that's because this blaster is mag-fed from the grip, just like the Apollo, which is awesome. Unlike the Zeus, you don't have to worry about your mag flying out the other side when you're going to load it or unload it. You take your mag, you just insert it into the grip. It does require a little bit of an angle to get going into the blaster, as you can see if I hold it like this. And on the back, you have a mag release, which is just awesome. It's so easy to use. It feels really nice to use. It's just, everything is very well laid out on this blaster. This is an excellent system, and I hope they continue to use the grip mag well concept idea, because this one works really well. In the grip, you also have your rev trigger, which has a click to it, just like the Colossal Blitz if you've ever used it, but it has a very nice click to it. Let me see if I can get this on audio. Sounds really nice. It feels very nice. There's no mush to it at all. Very clicky, and for those of you who love your micro switches, you're gonna like the feel of that if you leave it stock, that is. Up here, you have your trigger, and right underneath of it, you have your safety switch. So if it's in the back position, you cannot pull the trigger. If it's up forward, you can, once you put the rev trigger down. And what's interesting about this blaster is it doesn't use a system like the Zeus, where it's kind of like a rolling piece on the trigger that pushes the arm up. This uses a wheel system, a little geared wheel fan system. So on the trigger, you have some gears, and it turns like a wheel that has these pushers on it. And what you get from this is a very smooth trigger pull. This one is so nice to use. It feels great. It doesn't take much effort to push down, and you get a full push without having to push the trigger all the way down. It actually stops about midway from you think where it will stop, but it feels really, really good compared to the Zeus. Can't really compare it to the Apollo or the Chaos because those use slightly different systems, but this one feels very, very good, and I understand why the people who have this already really, really dig it. At the top of the blaster, there's this little orange tack rail bit that blends really well with the other tack rail pieces, but if you push that forward and pull up, you get a view into the horizontal flywheels. We don't have a side jam door on this one, something that's a bit hard to push open. This is very easy to use, and then you can just push that down until it clicks and you're done. You also have your sights at the front. You have the barrel right here, keeping that nice aesthetic look with the barrel. It has some little castle-like things on the top of it, ports on the front, not that it does anything, and you have a piece at the back to put your straps and whatnot onto it. But yeah, that's a good overview of the Hera. Very small, very compact. Let's see how it shoots. I had to cut the shooting demonstration short because of one of the reasons I'll explain in the cons section of this video. But before we get into that, let's go over the pros that the Hera has, starting with number one, size and comfort. Usually this is two separate things that I go over, but for the Hera, they just work so well together. They go hand in hand. I put them as one thing. The Hera is a relatively small blaster. At least to me, it's pretty small. It's not as small as a Strife, but it's smaller than a Rapid Strike. But it works. It's comfortable and it works. Shouldering this blaster feels nice. The shoulder rest area is good. The grip at the front, though it is blocky, it's pretty blocky, it feels nice, and it just works as a shoulderable blaster. I would even use it like this instead of like a pistol or something I shoot from the hip. Everything about this blaster is pretty darn comfortable. The only big kind of thing I don't like about it is the grip. Now I understand you have to get an entire mag going through it, but it's just slightly too large for my hands and I'm not a really big fan of it. But for those of you with larger hands than me, you still have room on the grip for your hands. It's really kind of, I understand why people like it, I understand why people don't like it, and you have to shove a mag into it, so whatever. I'm not the biggest fan of the grip. The biggest thing I love about this blaster is the new mag system and release. Unlike the Zeus, which was just really, I don't know what the right word is, ugly to use, I guess, to load. I guess that is the right word. It was really ugly to load. It could flip out one side. Custom 3D Nerf made little blocks for it so the mag didn't fly out the opposite side you wanted it to, which was really nice. This uses the grip just like the Apollo. The mag release is buttery smooth. This little thing right here is great, much better than that of the Apollo's, and I like the Apollo's one. This thing just works and it feels so nice to use. This system is excellent and I hope Nerf brings it back for another rival blaster. The rev trigger is nice and big. It has that wonderful click to it. Usually I'm not a fan of rev triggers that kind of go into the blaster, but this thing is large. I think any finger will be able to hit it nicely. It feels great. That click is wonderful, and I really like this rev trigger. The main trigger pull is definitely better than the Zeus's trigger pull if you've used one of those. It's just a pop, pop, pop. It feels nice. It just works pretty well, and the little safety area is very easily accessible, and it just works. So overall, this blaster is very, very comfortable. It feels great, and it works rather well, except for the one thing I'll mention in the cons. The second pro I have is consistency. The Hera is a pretty darn consistent blaster on C batteries. I don't know if that's gonna change if you put in the rechargeable battery or if you mod this to take a LiPo, but on C batteries, and from what I showed in the firing demonstration, this blaster puts balls about exactly where you want them to. The only real difference between shots is the hop up where it takes effect at different times. Other than that, this blaster is pretty darn consistent, and I don't know if that has to do with the horizontal flywheels or I don't know, the rubber little hop-up bit being slightly different. I don't know what it is, but this blaster is pretty darn consistent. That's great to see. The third pro is the rechargeable battery used for this blaster. If you don't want to spend a lot of money on C batteries, or if you want to get a little bit of a modified Hera feel, you can use the rechargeable Chaos battery in this, which is excellent. I love that Nerf is putting this into the Hera because it just gives people more options and more things to do. So if you want to get a bit more power out of it, if you want to get more speed out of it, you can use that. Or if you just don't want to go buy C batteries because C batteries are awful. It's great that they allow you to do that, and I hope they keep adding that kind of feature to flywheel rival blasters in the future because it's just great. And now onto the cons. I only have 2 cons for the Hera, but they can combine together into one really big issue. The first one is not the jam door, but jam accessibility. The jam door has really good layout for the wheels and the parts after the wheels. From my experience, those are the areas that the jams never happen in. It's over by the pusher. And if you look, you can see that getting to the pusher with your finger is gonna be a bit awkward. You have the wheels in the way, and you also have the little pusher arm of the pushing wheel blocking your path in there. Now you can move the pusher arm up a little bit, but that doesn't really help out too much, and balls were very difficult to get out. So if you do get a Hera, just like with the Apollo, I would recommend carrying a stick or some sort of grabby material if you're gonna be shooting headshot rounds, which leads to my second con, jamming. So my theory as to what's happening is that when the squishier balls get to the top of the mag feeding area, there's a little lip that they have to go over in order to get to the flywheels. The squishier balls are deforming against that ridge, deforming against the pusher arm, and basically just jamming themselves because they are too squishy. That's my theory. I don't know if this is just my Hera or if it's some Heras or if it's all Heras, but if you do run into this problem in the future using headshot rounds with the Hera and you have jams, if you don't have jams, if you think I'm crazy, let me know in the comment section so I can get an idea of what is happening, because you might have to shave down the feeding ramp just a bit to make that hurdle a bit easier for the squishy rounds to get over. So when you combine the headshot squishing jam problem with jam door accessibility, you have a terrible time, because I've tried, it does not work with the size of my fingers, and it makes it really, really frustrating when it does happen. With the pros and cons out of the way, let's talk about the price. The price for the Hera is $60, which may have some of you going, $60? Oh my gosh, that's so expensive. It's just a Strife, but for Rival, and the regulator's like $40. Nerf loves putting its rival tax onto the rival blasters, so they're more expensive than you think or wish they were. Honestly though, for $60, I would say this is a pretty darn awesome blaster if you're into the rival stuff, and definitely an upgrade to the Zeus. It's comfortable, it's a nice size, the way it loads is so much better than the Zeus. You don't have to buy any sort of 3D accessories to actually make it usable, and overall I think it's a pretty awesome blaster if you're into the rival stuff. And if you're in the modding scene, the potential for the Hera is pretty darn good. It is basically a Strife, easy to wire. All of this space from here back is just for battery, so if you want a small pistol that is mag fed, you can do that with the Hera, and it also takes that rechargeable Nerf Rival battery, so if you want to get a bit of a boost from your Hera, you can easily do that. So I would say the Hera is worth your money if you're into the rival stuff. If you're not into the rival stuff, I would say start with something else, maybe like an Apollo, to see if you like it before you jump up into the big flywheel blaster, the Hera. If you're interested in picking one up for yourself or maybe for someone else, I'll have a link to a DPCI code search website, as well as the DPCI code for this, so you can plug it in and see if it's in any stock rooms around you. And when it does officially come out, I'll have a link to where you can buy it. I'll also have a link to the rechargeable battery if you're interested in getting one before you get a Hera, or if you already have a Chaos. But for now, I hope you enjoyed this video, and as always, have a great day wherever you are.